Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to the weekend preview where we have a look at the ins and outs of the teams, a few take-home messages for the weekend in SuperCoach and a few tips obviously on the Friday here. Albeit I'm doing this early in the day, so I don't have the luxury of quite those Sunday teams, but I don't think it'll affect things too much when I'm talking about it. But firstly, let's have a look at some of the relevant in SuperCoach ins for this weekend. Josh Gibson returns. George Hewitt is back as well. Matty Prittis will help many coming back, as will Lincoln McCarthy. Got a very juicy break even there. Tommy Rockcliffe is back. Good to see Rockcliffe back, and hopefully the points churn out for him. Mason Cox is also in. Some will have him at R3. Others will be looking at him for a downgrade if he can keep his spot. And Brett Deledio is also looking very likely. I think he's been named. I think he still has to pass a fitness test, but he should play. Some notable outs. Wayne Malia is out. Some people might have him as well. Ryan Davis rested, in talking marks there. Read into that what you will. Clayton Oliver is also out, managed, rested, Paul Roos said. And of course, Jason Johannesson is out. The major one of everyone sort of looking at their trades this week has been surrounding him. I'll put the link into the video that I made specifically to what you do about him. Of course, it's the main talking point, which kind of makes this video less relevant because most people want to watch that video, but I'll put it in the link and you can, if that's all you're thinking about, what do I do with JJ? Well, you can have a look there. So they're the mains in and out. It's not really panic stations really. I mean, we knew JJ was out. We knew he was long term. We get a few back here. We lose a couple of money makers. We also get one back. It's not too bad. So Petrarca, although looks as though he won't get named, I know he's named on the extended bench, but listening to a few things Paul Roos has said, they still want to hold him back, which I find amazing. I understand when they've done it for a few weeks, but let the bloke go now. I mean, gee whiz, he's dominating VFL. He's not just playing, getting through matches. He's just absolutely dominating. So I think we just got to put him in, but he looks unlikely. So that leads me to the fact that he might be a floating zero, because I know Davis is the other zero normally. Well, he would be now. But if you're looking to VC perhaps Ablett, then that's obviously not really doable with the fact that Mason Cox is playing, and then you want to use Davis, but of course he's a Gold Coast son. So you might have to use Petrarca if you have him. If you don't, you might have to get creative. You might have to have Brad Crouch, who I didn't mention was nearly named, but unfortunately wasn't. So he'll be close, and you'd think he'd be next week. But moving on to that VC loophole, I won't spend too much time on it because I think most people really know what they want to do, and you've really got 3 or 4 players that you're going to bank on, and whichever way you can combo those into who plays first, who gets a VC, blah, 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 you'll do it yourself. But I think, obviously, Ablett into, say, Dangerfield or Fife will be a popular one. That'll be depending on where you can find a floating zero. Another one you may go with Todd Goldstein, also in the same game, up against old mate Dan Curry, again into Dangerfield and Fife. So unless you wanted to go maybe a Sammy Mitchell on the Friday night, if all you've got is, say, a floating zero on that Saturday or something like that, you want to use a Davis or something like that. So that's about all for the captaincy, because I think most people are pretty well over it, and most people know that. So, look, what I will say, and the take-home message, is find as much cash on your bench as you can. We've got Wagner, we've got Burn-Jones, we've got Ruggles, we've got Kieran Byrne, not much has been talked about him. We've all got guys on the bubble, and we get so many guys that we know are starting round 1, and we pick them from the start, and, we've got 29, 30 players playing, and it's all happy, all good and well. But it is tough to find quality mid-season options that can make us some cash. And I think we've got some good ones. I like Burn-Jones. I really like Wagner as well. I like Ruggles as a player who can average you 60-odd. I don't as much like his scoring potential as the other two. And Kieran Byrne, he's a little more flimsy than the others. He could hold his spot, probably will hold his spot. Will he score as well or not? I'm not too sure. But there are a few options there that if we can get quite a few in, I think they can be extremely handy inclusions to our side. So if we can find as many of those making their way into our sides, that'll be great, because I know I had Oscar McDonald, he'll be leaving my side. Not many will have him, but you might have a Davis, you might have a Papley, you might have a Hewitt. These guys, because of past poor scores and being out of the side potentially, they're price ranging and their way of generating cash is sort of stunted to an extent. So you might look at a couple of these guys and bring both in. You might double trade down. And the reason I say this is because the take-home message this week is to brace yourself and prepare your team for upgrades in the coming weeks. I think there's nothing really too tempting right now in regards to upgrading to a slightly fallen premium, or a premium anyway. But there is on offer some really good cash cows, I feel. I know personally, if you've had a look at my side, on the bench, I've got Mitch Brown. He's tracking along okay, but slowly. Papley's sort of stunted his growth. I've got Kennedy once Crouch comes back. But aside from that, sort of Davis, Hewitt not making me much cash. I've got Petrarca, of course, got Flow 0 at R3. You really do want to make some cash, because the basic philosophy is you don't want to downgrade players on your field, because then you've got a lower price player on your field, and where do you upgrade from? Ideally, you have a bloke who's at 300,000 on your bench, downgrade, pocket 200k, upgrade to a 300,000 bloke on your field. Bob's your uncle, happy days, you've got a premium, that's a perfect upgrade. And you haven't lost anything on your field. So I think when you're looking at where can I upgrade, because you might have your Marcus Adams, Wiedering, McDonald Tipping Woody, all these blokes, we talk about Wells and Kennedy, Mills, etc. But they're probably all on your field. So you probably circle them and earmark them as guys you're going to upgrade. And so therefore you need, it takes two to tango. You need two rookies going well to downgrade and upgrade, and there's your 400k turnaround sort of thing. So it's worth thinking about. But look, I do think while there's some good cash options right now, there's not too many guys to upgrade to at the moment, or at least looking great to upgrade to. I think in future weeks, definitely the back line, there's some real, fruit for picking there. You've got Heath Shaw, who will drop potentially to the lowest we might find him all year in the coming weeks. Basher Hooley, likewise, with that 59. Even Jared McVeigh could potentially drop quite quickly, as could Deledio if he plays. He's not quite right. All he's got to do is score a couple of 90s here and there, maybe 100, then he gets an 80, and all of a sudden he's probably dropped 80, 90,000. Robbie Gray, he's going well, but even so, he came up with a 90 odd. I mean, he's not going to drop heaps, but he might just be nicely priced around 570, something like that. Paddy Dangerfield, if he has a quieter one, even 110 is all we're asking. All of a sudden, next week, he really has to pump out a big one to stay around that 600 mark. Pendlebury is being good without being great. He might be on a lot of people's radar. And of course, Goldstein, many will want him, but he's not going anywhere in price. And the big one to really prepare yourself is Tommy Rockcliffe, because his break even is through the roof, especially with, a 42 or something the other week. So I think he's at 550. Everyone viewed that as already too cheap, and now he's going to drop. He'll drop well below 500. So I think if we can brace ourselves to bring those sort of players in, and potentially bring two in at once. That's why I say get some cash in the bank. I know at the moment I'll have about 200,000 in the bank. So potentially with the idea to bank a few more trades next week, and then by the time these guys fall, all of a sudden you can really make your team get really beefed up. So. And Pritis is another one, actually. From memory, I think his last two are 117 and a 70 odd. So he could potentially drop slightly as well. So that's what I really want people to focus on. I think that's important, because over the next few weeks, while we've sort of battened up the walls and, prepared for the worst of these last couple of weeks with correctional trades and the JJ situation, I think the next few weeks are where we can really see our sides improve. And our round 7 to 8 teams should look much, much different to the sides that we have right now. So bear that in mind. That's all I've got for you today, guys. Don't swing the axe on too many players. I know people talk about Sam Gray and the like. I think it's far more important, rather than to patch up a bloke like that, is far more important to get a guy who's going to make you some serious cash for someone who's not, like a Papley, or maybe a Davis if you're that way inclined, or a Hewitt. I think that's far more important. So focus on that. Look at the long-term goals that you want to get out of your side. Be efficient with your trading. Don't burn them now, because you want them back in August. Be smart. Good luck for the weekend. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. You know the deal. And I'll see you guys all soon.